Hi and welcome everyone to our 95th episode of The Little Inside. I just found out that I'm still Tobi, and it leaves me confused and bamboozled. And so this week I'm going to talk a little bit about meditation and acting sessions and how they might go together. So let's get started right after the intro. When I was younger, in my 20s or so, I took part in a regular improv group. And so we had these gatherings where we would just come together and practice improv together. And we had all these really entertaining and funny acting techniques that we learned during that time, that we experimented with very openly. It was very, very nice. And in this time, I've learned two very, very important lessons, actually, that would later in my meditation practice and in my day-to-day life as well play a huge role, that led to a few very empowering and nice insights that I would like to share with you today. The first kind of insight has to do with the mind and the story, the content of the mind actually being completely empty. Now, the stories that we're telling ourselves, the thoughts that we're having on a consistent basis, where do they come from? We've all learned them from our society, from the media that we're consuming, from our environment, our surroundings, the friends that we spend time with, our family members, mom and dad. We've learned them from the earliest childhood on, from our cultural background, the society that we spend most time with. That all kind of shapes the very particular story that we're all retelling ourselves on a consistent basis. This story, or the nature of this story, is very flexible. It can change at any time. It can change its course, it can change its direction, it can become gradually more positive, it can become gradually more negative. And so it very often fluctuates between these two states. It can become very positive, uplifting, and then certain things happen in your life, then the whole storyline becomes very negative and depressing. And so it goes kind of up and down, up and down. That points to something. It actually shows me that the story that we're having is not real. It's a story. In the end, it all boils down to that fact. When I say that this story is empty, I say that, one, it is completely changeable. It is replaceable. It is something that vibrates on my inside in a specific frequency, and I can change that story. The fact that I can change it shows me that it's not chiseled in stone, that it's not something that is very solid, very substantial, unwavering and stable. It is rather very ethereal in nature. It doesn't really have any solidity or permanence to it. It is, in fact, almost just like it's just energy. And that energy moves around in its own kind of way. Very often we are not choosing our story, right? We're brought up with a certain story, and then we're very invested in that story. We're identified with it. We're believing its content to be completely, utterly true. But that is not really the case. If you're looking at the way you think and the way you feel, you'll find out quite quickly that it's very, very much flux. There's nothing stable, nothing solid to be found there. And that has to, of course, happen with very direct observation. You have to really train yourself to look directly at the mind for quite a while before this becomes more and more obvious. So I'm encouraging you not to think about your mind or to look at certain thoughts that you're having, thinking, I am this or that, but just sit down, shut up, become quiet, and observe. Look at the thoughts arising and passing. Look at their nature. What are they made of? Are they very stable? Are they very solid? Are they very, very substantial or not? What do you find, right? So I'm encouraging this kind of observation. And theater, improv here in that case, has really helped me to reveal that our storyline is just something that we repeatedly tell ourselves, that we're very invested in. And that translates even into the physical, the biological mass, the combination of atoms in our head underneath our skull learns to fire according to the predominance of thoughts that we're having. So it becomes more efficient. Your brain, your body, and everything is almost like, we can say, like a result of your habitual mental movements. And so it arises out of that. It is reconstructing itself based on how you persistently think and feel. And so if your story is a persistently uplifting story, then your body adapts to that. The way you react to circumstances, even negative circumstances, is much more creative, much more uplifting, much more positive. And I could explore that when you're acting and when you're doing improv. You can explore various ways of reacting to certain circumstances. You're not just bound and tied up with only just one way of acting. But for example, you could explore how it feels like reacting with kindness to a very angry person. You can also explore how it would feel like acting with great anger and hate towards a person that is very kind. And you can play with all this. It's like a safe zone in which you can explore various approaches and have fun with this kind of basic creativity of the mind. So this basic creativity, the options that you have of responding to life, they point to this first insight that I have, that the mind is essentially empty. It's like a blank piece of paper and is ready for your story to be written right here, right now. If you don't like the way it's written so far, rewrite it. Turn it into a story that is uplifting, empowering, that is nice, in which you are a hero that is able to cope with life, is able to cope with fear, with problems in a very inspiring, beautiful, creative way. That's your choice, right? That's up to you. The second insight that I had is precisely that. Because our mind is empty, like a blank piece of paper, I have the power to choose how my life unfolds right now. I cannot choose how it unfolds tomorrow, and I cannot choose how it unfolds yesterday, but I can choose what I do with myself, how I want to feel, how I want to approach my life and myself and my surroundings, people who I'm with. I can choose that right now. Do I want to, for example, how would I rather do this video? Now I can slip into a role of being very insecure. I can play with that. I can say,
oh, I don't really know what I'm going to say, and maybe I'm going to talk a little bit about this during the next video, and I'm very sorry that I'm bothering you with this useless, stupid kind of content. I know it's very stupid. I know you probably have read many books, and you're probably much better at this kind of thing than I am.
You can go into this and can play with that. You can explore that, or you can explore confidence, how it feels like to really stand behind what I'm saying. This is up to you. You can see every day is kind of like a stage. Since your mind is empty, you can now choose how you act, how you respond to various things. That way life can become much more fun. So right now, let's say you're sitting in an airplane, or you are with your family having dinner. It's Christmas time. How would you like to act? Now, when we are acting, we have a certain responsibility, because all our actions, they create results, not only for ourselves, but for other people. So there is a big responsibility here. Having the freedom of acting any role that you would like to act means that you have a great responsibility. It's almost like having or waking up to a superpower that you have, to a hidden superpower. And that superpower comes with the responsibility. And it's the responsibility to be careful of how you act. So careful here means you want to know, where does your acting come from? Does it come from kindness? Does it come from anger? Does it come from hate? Does it come from resistance? Does it come from generosity? Does it come from compassion? Does it come from wisdom? What kind of role are you playing? Because that role will have an impact not only on yourself, it will produce results, it will produce a very clear direction in your life. So that is kind of your responsibility. If you do not want to suffer, what would your role then be? How would you act so as to avoid future suffering and pain? How would you need to act? So you kind of have to study a little bit what kind of role is most skillful and wise. And if you want to be more happy and joyful and fulfilled, with which we all want to experience that goodness, that paradise, that happiness, that joy in our life. If you want more of that, how would you need to act in alignment with your wish so that you're actually getting more of that? What kind of thoughts do you need to have? What kind of feelings would you generate within yourself? And again, I'm saying it again, you have the power to design yourself from the ground up by designing and shaping the way you think verbally. That is then translating into the way you feel physically. That teaches and informs your body how to regrow and how to act in this world, in this environment. And this action coming from kindness, coming from compassion, etc., will have a ripple effect. It will have a very powerful impact in this world. The way you can illustrate this is very much by the growth of a tree. If you have a mango tree, it comes from a mango seed. And I think a mango has one seed, right? And so that one seed, you put it into the ground, it will lead to one mango tree, and that one mango tree will have many mangoes. And some actions are like that. They produce that tree over time, and that tree then produces many mangoes, every mango carrying the potential for another mango tree that produces many mangoes. Some actions are much more tricky. They are maybe like a papaya. If you open up a papaya, you will find it's full of seeds. There's like hundreds of seeds in a papaya. Now, if you're seeing these hundreds of seeds in a papaya, every single one of them can produce a papaya tree. So there's a whole lot of potential. Some actions are very powerful. Some actions are a bit more weak. Some actions sleep for a long time. You perform them, then they sleep. And only when you meet that person that you've acted with, after a long time again, these seeds are activated again. So it's highly, highly complex. Knowing that, the best thing that we can do is act from a sober state, act from a wholesome, skillful, and wise state, such as kindness, compassion, generosity, wisdom, and all these powerful states. That way you will get what we're all looking for, which is more happiness, more fulfillment, more comfort within yourself, and less fear, less anger, less hate, less destruction of yourself and your surrounding. So that's all that comes to mind for this week about acting and meditation. I hope it was meaningful and useful as usual. If you do have any questions, feel free to write them down in the comment section below. Always happy to read your comments. And for now, I leave you with that, and I wish all of you guys a wonderful next week. I'm looking forward to see all of you again next Wednesday. Bye-bye.